So nice to see you again, Veronica. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for wanting to share your experience with the FMA. Before going right into the subject of your life in fashion and all the experiences and opportunities and challenges you faced over your career, I just wanted to know, what does the FMA, what does this initiative and this nonprofit means to you on a personal level, and how do you identify with the values of the FMA?
Well, I am where I am because someone took the time to teach me, someone took the time to mentor me. And that happened all along the way, as early as, preschool, when someone, when there's a talented teacher who looks at you and recognizes your potential and recognizes who you are as a person, and then helps to guide you along that way. And, my mother was amazing for that. I was actually telling a friend the other night that all of us, my mother was a nurse, she had a great proclivity for science. And, she shared that with us, where she would take us on vacation with my sisters who were older than me. We'd go on vacation with the science teacher. And, we'd spend the whole summer like doing science related things. And then later on, when it looked like my interest went more toward fashion, more toward art, then my mother made sure to get me into long summer programs that developed those talents within me. And so every single person that I met along the way, starting with my mother and starting with all these teachers that I had in my life, have really shown me the importance of mentoring. And then getting into fashion, with people like Karl Lagerfeld, Isaac Mizrahi, who was just a few years ahead of me at Parsons, Azzedine Alaïa. I mean, there's so many talented people. The list goes on and on and on. If they hadn't shared their talents and mentored me, I wouldn't be where I am right now.
Exactly, and the industry as we know it would not have the same face as it has today. I mean, like you said, it's also thanks to amazing designers coming from a minority background like Azzedine Alaïa, who really pushed for having more diversity on the runway and more diversity in the fashion industry, that today, we can advocate for change. You were one of the first supermodels to push boundaries in the luxury industry. Can you tell us more about your actual beginnings as a model, and how you kind of experienced your first steps in the fashion industry?
There was nothing I was more excited about when I got the opportunity to become a model. It's something I always wanted to do. It's something my mother always said no, because she wanted me to get an education first. And when I finally did get into the industry, it was so mysterious and so far away, because, don't forget, there wasn't like YouTube and Instagram. We didn't have permission to see behind the scenes 24 hours a day.
True,
the curtain wasn't pulled back. So even simple things like, doing makeup or hair, or, even knowing where to buy clothes, or how to do an interview at an agency wasn't something that wasn't readily available information. So there was nothing more exciting and nothing more intimidating, and I failed spectacularly in so many ways, trying to learn the business. But at the same time, those big failures, like when you're at a casting and you don't know how to walk in high heels because you weren't allowed to wear high heels in high school, at home, and you fall into casting, then that's an opportunity to learn how not to do that again. That's an opportunity to say to myself, what do I have to do to get really good at this so that I don't have to feel this way again? What do I have to do, to make sure that there's no reason that someone would say no to me for a job?
For sure. I guess it's also, experiencing with failure that encourages you to do better, obviously, and to grow as a professional and as a human being. What kind of challenges did you have to face when you started out as a model?
Well, you name it, from A to Z. From A to Z, I didn't know the business. I didn't know anybody who was in the entertainment business, and you hear the word business coming up over and over again. I had no idea how expensive it would be to enter the fashion business, how expensive it would be to maintain a career in the fashion business, how to collect and manage the money, because your money comes whenever the clients pay. Your money comes in like big pieces. There's tons of taxes. You don't have any health insurance unless you buy it on your own, which is something that people are much more familiar with now. But I had no idea how to set up the life. And then there was the language barrier. So you're working in all these different countries and you're being instructed by, designers, photographers, makeup artists in a different language. And then you have to go deal with your business. You have to be able to talk to your agent and be able to understand what's happening in your money in different languages. And that's also really important. And then you're young, right? So and you're just coming out of school. So very often, agents, in order to control the models who are actually their employers, right? Because you don't work for an agency, the agency works for you. You don't pay the agency pays you.
Yes.
I mean, you don't pay the agent doesn't pay you, you pay the agency. So it gets it gets a little difficult sometimes to understand that you're the boss. You're not a student, you're not a child, you're the boss. But when you're constantly being called a girl, the girls, you're a girl, right? It takes you from being an adult with agency to being a child who's supposed to be told what to do, and a child who's supposed to be told what to do and obey. So you have to break that mindset of I'm an adult, I'm a woman, I'm a boss.
Yeah, no, it's what you say is very, very important, because indeed, up until just very lately, I feel that a lot of, without naming any agencies whatsoever, but those power dynamics between models and agencies have always been like very complicated, and it's been a struggle also for models, to reassert themselves and to make sure that they're not patronized by their agents and by their agency, and especially, like you said, because now we can pull the curtain and see what's going on behind the scene. Now models have more and more power also to advocate for change in their own industries, and to make sure that abuse stops, that racism gets really, like, that we shake things up, and that we can have more diversity in the fashion industry. How were you able, like, basically to advocate for positive change in the modeling industry when you started, and when you reached the height of your career as a model?
Well, when I first came into the industry, it was at the beginning and then the height of the AIDS epidemic, right? So that was kind of the first crisis that we were kind of dealing with as an industry, globally and all together. And because people were literally dropping dead, that was mostly, that was 90% of the conversation. How are we going to help our colleagues? How are we going to help, people who are completely imperiled by this disease, right? So sexism and racism kind of took a back seat to that. And then, it was still, I got into the business in 86, and the common wisdom in 86 was that, Black girls couldn't sell magazines, Black girls couldn't sell cosmetics, and ad campaigns were very, very few and far between. And the people who really advocate for you to be in the ads most of the time are the photographers, because they're hired by the brand, and then the brand gives the photographer pretty much free reign to put the campaign together, because that person can realize the creative vision along with the designer, but it's really on the photographer's shoulder. And I had some really great people who I worked with who fought for me, like Steven Meisel and Peter Lindbergh and Jill Benson-Moen, and they would put me up for campaigns, and sometimes they would come back and they would say, listen, the brand doesn't want any Black people in their ads, like point blank. But I'll try again for you.
Mm,
So, all change, whether, it's health, whether it's a public health thing, whether it's racism, whether it's sexism, it takes everyone working together
of course.
to make it, to move the needle, to make it change. And so if there's an opportunity, right, where you can have a conversation and you can say to the person who is mentoring you, advocating for you, um, hey, what can we do to try to make this happen next time? What do I have to show, demonstrate, do to make this happen? Um, Even though you may feel a lot of anger, because, there were times when I was really angry because I'm,
Mm,
I felt shut out for reasons that I didn't think were fair. I felt shut out for reasons that I didn't even think were like smart for the brand. It's like, why wouldn't you want everyone's money? Why wouldn't you want to cater to all markets? Um, but you have to always turn anger into action. And the action has to be, and the action has to be positive,
mm.
consistent, and you have to move toward the goal. And then once you learn how to do it, then you have to teach the next person.
Exactly, like you say, I think, like you just said, I think that the teaching component is so important, basically, to bring your knowledge and to share your knowledge and to share your experience with others is what, makes us all move forward as a group and as a whole industry. In the end, like you say, it's everybody's problem, that the fact that we still have a lack of diversity that is very palpable in fashion, especially at top executives levels, I think. And even despite the industry's growing efforts to embrace diversity, I think there's still a lot we need to do, especially when it comes to power balance and power imbalance, again, like to make sure that there is diversity at every level of the industry, and every power and decision making level of the industry. I
Well,
mean,
right now, Elizabeth, it's a moment of incredible opportunity, because
yeah,
this is the conversation and everyone is aware. And it now is the best time in the world. If there's something that you want to do, ask questions.
yeah,
Ask questions. Like, if there's a job that you want, start asking questions about it. Like, you know, what kind of degree do you have? What kinds of things do you do in your, private life that makes your business, that makes you better at your job? Um, you know, Pick up your phone, because this gives you access to everything,
so much information.
in
Yeah,
at your fingertips, and you can message anybody on Instagram and ask them questions about their job or where they went to school, or, oh, you just did this campaign, I'm really interested, like, how many days did it take you to get ready for it? Like, what was your prep for that? What were the demands on set? Do you wish you would have slept more, slept less, ate this, ate
yeah,
that? Giving yourself a day before to just, rest. And so there's, know, you can, there's this great Chinese saying that, um, that when, oh my gosh, it has to do with luck and opportunity.
uh-huh.
So, uh, ah, success is when preparation meets opportunity.
Yes,
So
it's true.
I know it's like the corniest saying, like,
No,
always
but
be
it's so true.
prepared, but, yeah, always be thinking about what you're going to, what you're going to need when you get the opportunity to do whatever it is that you want to do.
Definitely, and that's actually a beautiful mantra, I think, for everyone working in this industry, whether it's the modeling industry or the luxury industry or the fashion industry as a whole. I think, like you said, there are fights that need to be done, but we all have to also basically evolve together as a group and make sure that what we construct meets certain timings and certain opportunities, so that the whole industry itself can evolve in a positive way and change as well. I'm just wondering, with your experience that you have as a model in the industry, I mean, there's still, obviously, even if the modeling industry has, evolved a lot and made a lot of positive change in recent years, are there still like specific issues that you want to address in the modeling industry, or specific things that you would want to see evolve over the upcoming years?
Well, I think one of the things that should really be sought out by for models, more than anything, is a business management course, because it's very difficult
Mhm.
to be able to manage the kind of, the kind of payment structures and also the amounts of money that we get, because it's so different
Yeah.
than probably most of us are used to in our families. So we
Mm.
don't really have like a real perspective or a system on how to handle the money. I
Yes.
think ageism is another thing.
Exactly.
I would love to see more women of different ages.
Mm.
Um,
Absolutely.
and I think we're starting to see a huge change in terms of ethnic diversity. I think we're starting to see more First Nations people and Native people be included now in fashion stories, and not just in a way that's like tokenistic.
Yeah,
Um, and the agency structure is very interesting.
it is.
Um, I really am curious to see how that's going to change over the next decade. I think it's going to change dramatically. Like even when you
Mm.
look at someone like Karen Elson,
Yeah.
who's been a top model for 30 years, who now is representing herself because she's got this
Exactly.
platform.
Because of social media, and because of, I think it's funny because it's the same way, I'm drawing a parallel to the music industry. It's also the same way artists wanted to escape like the abusiveness of their music labels, and so they just decided to
Hmm.
do their own promotion, release their own songs. And I feel like with models it's more and more also going into this direction of wanting, because there's not a very healthy, safe space for models in most agencies. Let's be honest about that. I feel that
Hmm.
so many models really want to do their own thing and represent themselves, which is completely understandable. And like you said, I think it will go in this direction. But maybe actually, you mentioned Karen Elson, also you have such an important experience in this industry, and I feel that many young models would love to have you as a mentor, for example. Is it something that you could consider, like helping other younger models from a minority background to get more exposure, visibility, to be part of sitting at the fashion table?
Well, last year, in response to all the opportunities that came up after in the last let me see, how can I put this? So last year, after the George Floyd case, and there was a flood of opportunities that came from corporate America. I think, I don't
Mm.
know, maybe you also felt it in England too, but there was a lot of goodwill extended by people like, Target, Macy's, a lot of the major players in the fashion industry, LVMH, in order to, create more diversity, create more opportunity.
I think a lot of models will love it and would benefit from it if you have some time for this. But yeah, it's a beautiful idea. I wanted to go back to something you said before about ageism, because I think it's really
Hmm.
important. You addressed a very serious subject here. I know that you are, with your own platform, Web on the Fly, you're very pro-age, and you have this mantra also saying, own your age, own your beauty, own your power. Can you tell us more about Web on the Fly and your latest project, and what you want to advocate in terms of being pro-age?
Well, saying own your age, own your beauty, own your power. So if you ever notice, when women lots of times sit around the table, they'll say, oh, I'm 40 and like, look at me, or I'm 50 or look at
I know.
me, or, oh, I'm 60, I hate my neck, whatever.
Yeah.
Um, do you ever notice that like men don't sit around and do that? They don't talk about like how fat they are or how much hair they lose or what they look like. You know,
True.
they talk about their achievements, right? Because they're owning their age. And they don't put themselves down, you know, because they own their beauty, they own their maturity. And when you apologize for what you are, and you spend all your time chasing after something that, you know, if youth is your absolute most valuable asset, and it's something that you lose every second, and you can't, you know, you can't get it back, right? You're giving up all your power. You're giving up all your power. So, you know, own your age, own your beauty, own your power is really about being proud of the life that you live, owning the body that you live in, right?
Yeah.
And just every day, like, what are you doing that's going to add up to your strength? What are you doing that's going to make you feel physically, mentally, and spiritually stronger? So that's really what it's about, you know. And listen, like, I'm as vain, if not more vain than the next person. You know, I have nothing against, like, you know, I have nothing against dermatology. I have nothing against whatever it is that you need to do, you know, in order to get up and take care of your family and solve the world's problems, or whatever problem is that you're working on. Do it, and do it in a way that's healthy, and do it in a way that makes you stronger. Because, you know, everything takes a lot of sweat, and there's no such thing as effortless. I mean, I'm a great proponent of the fact that effortless is bullshit, right? Because
oh my God, it's such a myth. It's like this, you know, this, when I think of effortless, I think of this myth of the Parisian woman who's like always, you know, always chic, even when she runs errands. And it's a marketing scam, more or less, to me.
Well, you know what? You can do it, but like anything, it's focus and it's preparation, right? But it's not effortless. It's not effortless.
Definitely. And do you want to share a bit more about Web on the Fly and your upcoming projects, maybe for the curious audience? I'm sure people want to know what you're up to.
You know, this is the last 18 months has been really great and really challenging for me in a lot of ways. We had a number of people in our family who had COVID. Then there was homeschooling. Then there was then my last two kids getting off to college. So I just sent one to college in September, and now actually, as soon as I leave here, getting ready to go visit some colleges with the other one. And life changed so much, right? So I feel like for a lot of people, I've learned to slow down. I've learned to do less and enjoy it more. I'm in kind of like a wayfinding period. You know, I'm not really sure what the next step is going to be. And, you know, normally that's like something, oh no, you should never admit that. You know, you're supposed to say that you have like the biggest project in the world and it's so exciting and no one's ever thought about it before, and you're making $1 million a minute and look at me. But I think it's okay to say, and because, you know, the truth is I don't really know like what is the next thing. You know, I think we're all finding too that social media is really, really, really consuming us in a way that's not necessarily the most healthy for all of us. So, you know, I'm slowing down a little bit on that front, and, you know, I'm looking at what is going to be the smartest move for the next phase of my life, because I'm getting ready to be an empty nester. And so for the first time in like 20 something years, you know, my day's not going to be organized around my children and my family.
I understand. So it's the next big step for you. But that's also beautiful, like you just said, to take the time and be vulnerable also about this, because like you said, you don't need to always have, you know, the next big project going on. You can afford to take some time off, and actually you should take some time off to be grounded and to actually know where you want to go. And like you just said, I totally agree with you. Like social media has us, you know, on a crazy loop of information.
Yeah.
Also, I mean, it's very
like a hamster on a wheel.
Total hamster on a wheel, and it's very useful for many purposes. Like, you know, initiatives like the FMA. I truly believe that social media and the internet obviously helps to connect us people all together and to make sure that we can advocate for the same change and for that we can bring out our common message out there. But at the same time, there's also a toxicity to the internet and to social media that is completely unnatural. And I totally agree with you. Like in the past month, I really used the time to just, log off Instagram, log off everything, and just, reconnect with my loved ones, reconnect with nature. I think we all needed that. Definitely.
Yeah, that's really important.
But thank you so much. Thank you so much for your
time.
Thank
you, Elisabetta. It's always a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you to everyone at FMA for inviting me. It's a really important initiative. I hope that everyone who's listening, you take away from this that every obstacle is an opportunity. Don't let the obstacle consume you. Let the obstacle make you better. No one gets anywhere overnight. There's no such a thing. Please don't compare yourself to other people, because that brings out the worst in all of us, because you have your own talents, you have your own assets, you have been blessed and given the life that you're supposed to have, right? So, you have the power to make your life what you want it.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for those super important words. Thank you for sharing all your experience with us. And I'm really, really looking forward to talk to you soon again. I love our little yearly meetups for interviews, and I think it's wonderful to
I know. Let's not make it so long next time, Elisabetta.
Yes, definitely. Thank you so much, Veronica.
Okay, and have a good day. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone. Bye.